Hey everybody, welcome to 3D6 Charge, a podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k, the state of the game and community news. We're streaming live at Twitch/3D6Charge every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And, oh no, I'm not capturing Discord. There we go. So joining me tonight are Kevin Lieb.
I'm a Chaos Space Marine.
And Benjamin Rubenstein.
Hello.
And I'm your host, Chris Vo. So tonight's episode is episode 39. So you want to play a doubles tourney. So that's our topic for the night. We're going to talk about no lists in particular for a doubles tournament, but some things to keep in mind, kind of the fundamentals of playing in a doubles tournament. The things you want to focus on, the things you want to talk to your partner with, that sort of thing. But before we touch on that, let's talk about some 40k competitive scene drama news. And that is, of course, TJ Lanigan being stripped of all of his ITC points for the season and being barred from earning further ITC points this season, in addition to a 30-day suspension from the Northeast 40k circuit, which is a consortium of I think 6 organizations in the Northeast, from Connecticut down to New Jersey, who host tournaments. So guys, your thoughts on Lanigan and his basically his DQ?
So I think it's a kind of an important step that our community needed to go through. That when someone kind of acts out of line, that they get a punishment that's appropriate. Sportsmanship is an important part of this game, and it's important that people know that if you act in an unsportsmanlike way, you will get treated in a way that fits that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a big step for the 40k community. We've seen cheating scandals happen before with players, and usually the punishment doesn't really leave that particular tournament, because we've talked about this on this podcast a lot, which is one of the reasons I think it's important that we discuss this, because we mentioned, I think 3 episodes ago, for the most part, tournaments are not associated with each other. If someone does something at one event that would get them booted from the event, other events might not even hear about it. And this one was very high profile, because the player involved was top of the ITC. Things happened on camera. Reddit blew up about it. But let's not pretend that TJ is the only player who's ever been booted from an event. He's just probably the most famous player who's been booted from an event this season. And I think that the ITC making the statement is potentially sets a precedent, right? It's no longer just oh man, I didn't think it happened. We've seen what happened last time someone got caught blatantly cheating at a big event. And I think the second time it happens, that's going to be real close to the start of a rules enforcement blanket. Although the ITC has said before, and they said it even with this, they don't really want to be the rules enforcement people. And he's not banned from events; he's just banned from getting points. Which is fair enough. There's, I think, banning a person from an event as an organization for the ITC would be really tough, right? Because then you just have to look at every single roster of events that get sent to you and just be oh man, is there a banned player on this list? And instead you can just be we're not tracking points for these people, and then just put a list out and just let TOs decide if they're going to let them in or not. But it's an interesting precedent. It's a halfway yeah, we're not going to let him win points, but he can still play. It's an interesting middle ground to take. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that the ITC went about it. Again, Risa said time and time again, he does not want to be, an enforcement agency. He doesn't want to be, basically the FIFA of Warhammer. But what the ITC did in saying we're stripping you of your points for the season and you can't earn any more points of this season, I think it sends a clear enough message, and it's a pretty solid response to what happened. It's not an out. It's not you're not banned from playing events, but since you've shown that you're not your competitor who's not of a sporting nature, then you won't be allowed to earn those competitive points for the rest of the season. And you know, he got suspended for 30 days from the Northeast circuit, uh, which is honestly is kind of like a non-punishment because tournaments happen about like maybe like once a month anyway. But the precedent is there, that like, hey, like we can't tolerate this, but we're also not gonna ban you entirely from the circuit. And if he were to be banned entirely from the circuit, I would say that's 100% totally uncalled for. He didn't haul off and punch a guy in the face because the dice roll went bad. He wasn't like a danger to himself or to others at the tournament. He wasn't making it an unsafe environment. He lied about dice, you know. And while it maybe considered a shitty thing to do at the very least on sportsmen, like he didn't make it a dangerous situation, and it doesn't warrant a ban. And it totally warrants being stripped of those points because we don't know when he was, misrepresenting dice at whenever he earned any of his earlier points. So I think the punishment is certainly in line and totally, you know, uh, sets the stage for future infractions like this.
I somewhat agree. I don't think you want to have like your initial big event being like a big infraction being like you're just gone forever and you can't participate. But that being said, if I found out this were to happen again with someone were to get two of these big infractions, I kind of just wouldn't want them to be known to 40K at that point. Like once shame once shame on you, twice shame on me kind of thing.
Yeah. I,
Um so
okay.
while yes, like you're right, no one got like punched. It's we still have to think about the community and what the community's image is, and like I think this like once like you got caught, community's growing, we're all maturing. That's very acceptable. Twice, I'm not in the same. I would not have the same mindset.
Yeah, I think it's good for the community to know now that with the game growing and growing and growing, just like anything that gets bigger, your percentage of bad actors is probably staying about the same. But as the game gets bigger, that just means like the actual raw number is going to go up. And over time, that means like as tournaments get larger, because like the average tournament size is also getting bigger, you're just more likely to run into bad actors at events. And I'd much rather play in a system where bad actors are just removed from the system. First offense, removed for a year seems like reasonable. Yeah, like your first offense, you don't get to play for a season, or you get to play and your points don't matter, which is kind of an interesting thought because why do people cheat? They cheat to win. Well, if I can't, if I get, if I'm a bad actor, I get caught cheating, I'm told I can't score points for the season. If I'm going to an event, like unless I just like I want to crush the event, like I'm really not incentivized to like super try hard and like cheat, right? Because I'm not getting anything for winning the event, with the exception of unless the event has in-person prizes, which gets into the whole thing of like if it's someone who is on this list of like people who the ITC is banned, it shows up and like goes, hey, I want to play in your event. Like, what do you do as a TO? Do you say no, you can't do it? You say yes, you can do it, but you can't win prizes. In which case, like, does that person like are they just like paying into an event to not win prizes? Because like if someone came to my event who like as I'm a TO, if someone came to my event and they were like on the list of like people who the ITC has banned, at the very least, I would not make them eligible for prizes. I don't want them to have an incentive to try to win. And right. I think I probably just wouldn't let them play because for the most part, where I am with as a TO, I'm TOing for mostly newer players, people who are like kind of getting into the community, and I just like don't want to expose them to that.
Right. So there's like kind of two sets. Like imagine you have a new player who gets taken advantage of and they don't even know it. That's terrible. But think about it another way. You have a veteran who like knows the other person's suspicious and then they like, well, I think I could have won that game. I was actually fully able to focus on my game, but now I have to focus on his game too. And that was too much. And so I lost even though he never did anything. The fact that he was known for being a suspicious player meant that I couldn't play my A game. And that's terrible too.
Yeah, that's super fair. Like Michael mentioned when he was on our podcast with like Magic, when you're playing against someone who's known to be shady, both Magic and 40k, heinously complicated. If you are, it's a huge amount of mental energy to play a game just like normally, like playing a game normally while watching your opponent for shady stuff it's just a lot. So I think it's going to be very interesting with the precedent that TO set for allowing people in. Now, TJ actually released an apology, and I believe in that apology, he said he's going to be taking some time off the game anyway. So in this case, it's a non-issue because he's not going to be going to events. But I'll be curious to see in the future if less well-known big names, get ejected from events for cheating. Will the ITC continue to enforce this? Is it just going to be for things that blow up on Reddit? What's the official level? I'll be curious to see. Basically, it's just like yeah. If the internet finds out, then it's a big deal. If the internet doesn't find out, it's not a big deal. Or if the ITC is going to make a more like standardized set of like regulations of this is what we consider a bannable offense. This is what we consider just like get booted from the event. And how much do we plan on enforcing that? At what level do we plan on enforcing that?
Yeah, good points all. Do you want to move on and talk about the new Ad Mech Guns?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Ad Mech.
All right. So there was a Warhammer community post recently. I'm trying to pull it up right now. But it's some changes to the Ad Mech guns, in particular the galvanic rifle, the arc rifle, and the twin Cognis laser cannon.
Yeah, Cognis weapons and other things got bigger. The first one I want to talk about is just the like generic weapon for Rangers. It went from rapid fire 1 401 to heavy 2 4 neg 1 with I believe 6s to hit are an extra armor penetration.
Not anymore. It's the
new one just flat AP1 all the time. Okay. I really like that change. Right now, I feel like a lot of factions have either very few heavy weapons or their few heavy weapons are mounted on platforms that ignore the penalty for moving and shooting heavy weapons, which just makes the heavy keyword just feeling sort of superfluous. There's very few, like think about like competitive 40k right now, the competitive list people are bringing. There's very few heavy platforms that actually suffer the penalty for heavy weapons, and they're just not played very much. And I think that change on Rangers makes them really interesting because that gun, if they're still staying at like the 7 or 8 points they are, that gun's like way above average for a 7-point model. But as a heavy weapon, it is interesting. It starts asking some interesting questions about: do you want to move your guy around and shoot your gun, or do you want to sit still and get better firepower? Because 30 inches, 2 shots is pretty sweet for like a 7-8 point OBSEC dude.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it makes the movement an actual decision you have to make. If you have a rapid fire gun and you want to move, that's no problem. Just do it. If you're equipped with heavy weapons, well, now you got to take it into consideration. It's like, all right, if I move, I'll be dropping some shots, but what if I'm shooting through dense cover? It doesn't matter if I move or not, so maybe I'll do it anyway. So I like this change. I think it adds a lot of flavor to Skitarii Rangers and their base weapon.
Yeah.
Chat is praising the Omnissiah, by the way.
Praise be to the Omnissiah.
Indeed.
I personally think that part of the reason we're seeing this is like I think they're going to really try to put an effort in to differentiate their 2 troop choices, make one actually feel like an elite troop choice. Their guns and every rules they have right now just doesn't really support that.
Yeah, that's true, because I feel like Rangers and Vanguard, with the Rangers having rapid fire weapons, there isn't. I mean, yes, there is a difference between Vanguard and Rangers, but that difference is whereas the gap
is always been that Rangers are your longer range, more sit in the back, do objective sort of things, guys, and Vanguard just want to be in your opponent's face. They have assault weapons, they do extra things in combat, lowering opponent's toughness. And the reality has been that depending on points, one of them just always ends up being better than the other one, and it's awkward. And I think this change is going to do a lot to really make them different, because an assault gun is very different from a heavy gun, and their profile is just going to be very different. Let's talk about arc weapons.
Yes. So the old arc weapon, 24 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 6, AP 1, damage 1, and when you're attacking a vehicle, it's D3 damage. Now, the new hotness is you get an extra 6 inches of range, you get an extra AP, and it's always D3 damage. But now when you're shooting a vehicle, it turns into flat 3, and it always wounds on a 4-up.
Yeah.
That's I love it.
Yeah, this is sweet. The old arc weapons just didn't feel like they were anti-vehicle weapons. Like, this is my anti-vehicle weapons to get bonuses against vehicles. It's strength 6, and the bonus isn't to wound, so whatever.
It's basically shooting a bolter, but like if you actually wound, it's it feels a little better.
Yeah, it's like shooting a heavy bolter at a vehicle. Sure. The new one does stuff. The new one like really hurts vehicles, and it has bonuses to wound them, does bonus damage against them. It's basically the change to the Dark Eldar Haywire guns, but ends up being a little bit better because it's always damage 3. I guess it turns out to be about the same, right? Because it doesn't do the extra mortal wounds and 6s.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a sweet change. What do you think, Kevin?
I personally like a little bit less mortal wounds in the game. It also like on that regards, like think about like the knight matchup. I feel really silly that all my mortal wounds are. I'm doing mortal wounds against Mechanicus knights because they can give a 5-up feel no pain, and then Imperials don't. So it lets them actually balance out the toughness between those two.
Mm-hmm.
I think mortal wounds need to be really sparing, and like I think this is a good way to just like it kind of evens it out.
Yeah, and it also makes the gun playable because the old arc weapons just didn't see play. You only ever saw them. You saw the heavy arc weapons saw some play on the servitors, where they just went totally nuts to the forge roll, where their 5s exploded, and then they put the warlord next to them, so their 6s did explode. But they weren't being used as anti-vehicle. They were just being used as a bajillion shots at strength 7. And the new arc weapon feels like it really actually just fills a role. Like, this is an anti-vehicle weapon. It does anti-vehicle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's talk about Cognus.
Yes. So, Cognus. So basically, it just makes you got more shots. You got more shots. They're assault weapons.
They get better. It's not just more shots. Cognus just means better now.
Yeah.
It used to be when you advance and shoot with a Cognus weapon, you'd be -2 to hit instead of -1 because it's like a heavy assault weapon. And the reality of that is that half the things that mounted Cognus weapons took penalty on their advanced rolls anyway, and they were just really bad. The new Cognus weapons are really good. They're just straight up better, not heavy, and all have bonuses. I believe the auto guns have 2 extra shots, the flamer is 2 extra shots, and the las cannons are D3 plus 3 damage. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So the flamer is D6 plus 2 shots now. The heavy stubber went from heavy 3 to assault 4. The autocannon went from heavy 4 to assault 6. And then the las cannon went from heavy 2 and D6 damage to assault 2 and D3 plus 3 damage.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just the thing is with like all of these Cognus weapons is that they feel like these are how the weapons are supposed to feel. Maybe not like a las cannon being assault, but definitely the D3 damage plus 3.
I kind of like las cannons right now being D6. It makes them feel, more Imperium. I mean, their technology's not as great. It's a little wonky. Sometimes they flare with too much power. It differentiates them too. Like a las cannon now feels significantly different than a dark lance. It's cheaper, but does a little bit less. And it makes sense that AdMech have the best versions of all the guns. They make them.
Yeah, that's fair.
What do you think, Kevin?
I like it from a streamlining perspective. Like it, like the old rule was essentially the assault rule, like with extra steps and kind of feeling worse. Like I think it's like a new player's not going to have to like hear that like 3 times. It's like, wait a minute, so it's a heavy weapon, but you can fire it, but it's -2. Like,
but you're capped at -1. And then I'm going to use 3 stratagems to give myself +3 to hit. So I'm actually +1 to hit. No, it's an assault weapon. It has the same rules all the other assault weapons.
If you take the bonuses squared and then find the root, you wind up at the same number, but it could be negative. Anyway.
Yeah, all these changes seem sweet. I think the new AdMech Codex is going to be really good. By the way, those assault cannons go on the Iron Striders, which were already one of AdMech's best units. So that like Iron Strider unit just has like 50% more firepower now. It's gonna be a really scary mock unit.
Those are the chicken walkers, right?
Yeah, also, I believe they have special rules for advancing. So the fact that they're just normal assault weapons now means that we're going to see a lot of damage out of them. Now, in fairness, the thing that people were doing with them is they're using special stratagems on them to give the bonuses to hit and wound, and then the Mars Canonical sometimes, or the Mars Stratagem. And those things will presumably all change. But just baseline, there's a heck of a ton of shots coming off of those units now.
I'm like... I'm kind of scared that like we saw like the initial 4 or 5 codexes / supplements as like one batch, and then this is like the second batch of codexes where like Drukhari, now AdMech are coming, and Drukhari had to be tough enough to handle AdMech, and we're just like we're getting a little power creep. This kind of goes into like a topic we're not going to be talking about here, but I'm a little concerned about the Drukhari power now that I've seen a few more games and heard a few other people talk about them.
Same. I have similar feelings about them. That might be a bit much.
I'm like afraid that they're currently pointed so they can deal with AdMech, and which just means AdMech's going to blow people off the table. But that's a concern that we have no knowledge about or numbers for, so it might not be valid.
Yeah, it is a little concerning that right now AdMech's only identity is blow people off the table. That's unfair, but that's how we're seeing a lot of the best AdMech lists function, is to just blow people off the table. And GW's leaning harder into that, which means that outside of like the super tough actions like Drukhari and Death Guard, we're just not going to see people survive against AdMech. Like, you're just going to die. But we'll wait for the codex to come out and we'll cover it then.
Yeah, we'll pass judgment when the codex comes out, and be vindicated when all of our predictions come true.
All right, so chat's got a couple things to say. Our resident Dark Eldar players is insisting Dark Eldar are fine, and we should stop talking about how good they are. They shouldn't be nerfed. We also need a D3 plus 3 damage emoji, and you know what? I think chat might be right. It is the magic number. It's the number you want to see on all your guns and all your weapons.
I will commission an artist to make an emoji for that.
All right, excellent.
Maybe just scribble one on a post-it note and take a picture of it.
Oh wait,
your fiance is artistic. Why doesn't she draw one?
Yes, I was about to say I think I know an artist that could probably put that together for us. And she even plays Dungeons and Dragons, so she will know what D3 plus 3 looks like. All right. That being said, let's go to our main topic.
Yeah. So you want to play a doubles tourney. So when I first got into tournament Warhammer by playing a doubles tournament, and I think that the barrier to entry is much lower, and these are all like positive points for playing a doubles and why somebody might want to dip their toe into doubles before just going into like an ITC event. The barrier to entry is much lower. You only need like 750 or 1,000 points of an army. It's not as cutthroat. You got 4 people around the board chit chatting instead of 2 guys just thinking real hard about dice. And it's just a much more casual atmosphere. And because doubles events aren't part of or aren't being scored for ITC points, there isn't necessarily like a super try hard guy there unless you're Ben and Kevin.
So they can be scored for ITC points, but we're a New England podcast. We're talking about New England events around here. For the most part, I haven't seen a doubles event around here that does ITC points. They tend to be geared much more casual, have fun, which is great. They're a lot of fun. And I think with people kind of moving slowly into 40K, back into 40K, I should say, it'll be a good time to go to some doubles events once, we're safe to do so.
Yeah. So let's talk about, let's say you've got your partner already, either it's your buddy or, you linked up with them on, your local Facebook group and you have a partner. Well, the first step is probably discussing, all right, what armies do you guys have? What do you have 1,000 points of that you can bring to the table?
I disagree. I think there's an important step to do before that.
I agree too.
What is
Kevin,
that?
what's the step?
You got to read the rules packet to find out how lists can be constructed.
Yeah, doubles tournaments can run a lot of different ways, and sometimes you can't play your lists how you want to. It's actually not the thing I was thinking of. I was thinking, first things first, gotta find a partner, because you might not always have one. Like, I haven't really had that issue, because I always just go, Kevin, want to play Warhammer? And Kevin's like, yeah! But, some people don't have a Kevin in their life. So, if you don't have a partner, just like post to the page, like post to the event page, be like, I'd go, but I'm looking for a partner. Anyone want a partner? And I can like almost guarantee you'll get one, because there's lots of people who are just like, oh man, I don't have a partner. It's like, just play with a random person. It's fine. It could be a little different, but it's just like talk to the person. You'll have fun. You might not win, but you'll have fun.
By the way, this is the value of not being that guy. Make yourself not that guy, and that post will get answered very quickly.
Indeed.
Yeah, I've seen that guy, capital letters, post for a doubles event before and just heard crickets. So if you ever wanted motivation to not be that guy,
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever you do, don't be that guy again.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Alternatively, you could just be a monster like Kevin and myself, and bring hyper spiky lists, and just like, be like, wow, we can probably only play with each other for a long time after this one. We've told this story in the podcast before, but for those of you who don't know, we went to a doubles event. We played against pretty much mono space screens. We went to the next doubles event. We're like, wow, everyone's being super competitive, and we brought the two spikiest lists we could possibly bring. And it turns out, for whatever reason, at that second event, a bunch of like casual players showed up, and we clubbed some seals, and it was a bad time all around.
Fish, beer.
So yeah,
Second
and then
beer.
COVID happened, so we haven't really had a chance to like redeem ourselves in the eye of the community. So whatever. So this is as much for us as it is for you guys, listeners. We're sort of reminding ourselves to perhaps tone it down when you go to a doubles event if it's casual.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I like about doubles events, is that you can bring some units that you might not normally bring to a singles event. But yeah, to your point, read the rules packet for list construction, because if back in 8th edition when you wanted to bring 3 different detachments, a lot of rules packets would say, you can bring 3 detachments, but it's 3 detachments among the 2 players. No one person's army can be more than 1,000 points. Maybe you can't bring a unit worth more than 500 points, worth half your list. Things like that you wouldn't otherwise normally see. With those restrictions, that's also a reason why some units that may be off meta, might see some play, because you might not be able to make those restrictions work with, I don't know, your giant stompy robot.
Yeah, and really read them carefully, because there can be other things too. Like I've seen in doubles packets things like, if your partner is playing Eldar and they jinx something, the jinx penalty doesn't apply when you're shooting at it, and that's fair. Like I played in the doubles events where that rule was not made, and my partner and I played Eldar and Thousand Suns, and we looked at a unit of custodes, went Doom, Jinx, Death, Hex, and then shot to death with shuriken weapons. And it was really silly.
Narratively, if that were to happen, the custodes would die.
Yeah,
so it's fine.
Narratively, story checks out. Yeah, so just really read the rules packet super carefully, because there will be restrictions in there. I personally don't, if you were going to run one, I couldn't tell you what the correct restrictions are, but it should be something. And even if you have no restrictions, there'll be definitions of like how do units interact, right? Like, can my partner's Eldar character block, like can my partner's like Eldar tank stop Armon from getting shot at? Like, we're in the same armies. Is that cool? Is it like an unallied thing and Armon's not actually next to a vehicle? You can just shoot at him. It's not clear. So things like that, make sure that you're like very clear on how that's going to work, because you don't want to get got. You don't want to like show up with a list that just doesn't function because you thought something would work that doesn't, and you don't want to get blown up on your first game because you hid your characters behind a bunch of custodes, and then were informed by your opponents that the custodes do not stop your squishy commissar from getting last cannoned.
Yep.
Yeah, so now that you've read the rules packet and you've digested it and understood it, now is it time to talk about what armies you guys might want to bring?
I mean, fine. I guess we can talk about armies.
So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so when you're talking, I think like when you're talking about the armies that you guys want to bring, I think first you should speak broadly and then narrow it down. So go over the different archetypes. Do you want to go like all gun line? Do you want to go like super fighty? Do you want to go super durable? Do you want a mix? Since you can mix and match your armies, you might want to strategize with your teammate. Hey, if you just bring like a big fucking brick of poxwalkers, I can just sit on the objectives, and then you can go for the super killy things that don't hold objective as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is what I did for one particular tournament where my partner was playing Custodes and just basically just sat them on some forward objectives, and then I had a knight, and that was my army, and I just stood back and just tried to blow everything away.
Yeah,
I remember that event.
Yeah. So, that I was on top table for that last round, and then as it turns out, a Fiend of Slanesh can prevent a 30-foot tall stompy robot from backing out of combat to charge back in again.
Ouch.
Listen, there's there's like a lot of machine spirits and knights in there, and like that's like knight spirits in there, and like fiends know how to like entice them. It's like it's not hard. It's praise the Messiah, as it were.
Is that what's happening with fiends? Is that supposed to be the flavor of that rule? The fiend like entices you and you get distracted.
It's called like sulfuric musk.
Okay.
Yeah, so like it smells really good. So I'm imagining the fiend just goes up to the knight and then like does like the Mad Max like V8 symbol and is just like come to me.
So the thing, I didn't know what that rule was called. I just knew you couldn't fall back for them. So I assumed they were just like actually holding you there with their tongues, which makes the knight versus Fiend of Slanesh thing like way more amusing. Like the knight's trying to fall back, and there's just like one little idiot with his tongue wrapped around your ankle. And just like it's the strongest tongue in the entire 40k universe. You're not going anywhere.
That tongue's made out of pure warp energy, man.
So you've talked to your partner. You've both decided what list you're going to play.
One important thing with lists, you got to think about, and this is also going to be dependent on how like command points work in your game. But you got to think about: is my list a heavy command point list or is my list a light command point list? And you're going to want to like really talk about like how many command points is your list going to need? Are you knights and you're like, my one knight needs to rotate iron shields every turn, so just like mark 5 CP off from the bat and.
Yep, just like a normal list you'd build for 40k. Check your CPs, and this is going to go back to what are the rules for the event. CPs can get split. Sometimes the TOs just like throw them in the pool, use them however you want. Make sure you know where the CP is going to start the game, and make sure you know where the CP is going to go during the game. Don't show up to an event that says, all right, you throw all the CP in the pool and then you play the game with a partner, and then at the end of the first round, you and your partner look at each other and go, we have like one command point left because we each want to spend 5 a turn. If you want to spend 5 a turn, make sure your partner wants to spend 0 a turn. Some lists just don't need command points, and if that's sweet. Play your command point hungry list with your partner's pile of poxwalkers that don't care about command points, but definitely don't play a Raven Castellan alongside a bunch of Shining Spears who both need to eat 20 command points a turn.
Yeah, no, that goes back to the rules packet where if you're sharing command points, then you definitely need to discuss that with your partner. If you've got your own command point pool, then fuck it, do whatever you want.
Right. It also might affect your list building decisions where like you might have a unit that's like 90% as good as another unit, but when you throw a command point in a turn, it becomes 110%, and that's fine normally. But because you don't have those command points to spend, now you're just bringing the other unit that doesn't need them.
So guys, this whole conversation sounded really spiky so far. So should we just be trying to spike these events? Bring like 5 Iron Hands Dreadnoughts that are untargetable?
Seals, clubs, go.
All right. So in all honesty, most events are a bit more casual. you're certainly welcome to aim to win them. That is fine.
It's a tournament at the end of the day.
But bring something you're going to have fun with. I honestly enjoy I'm a monster. I'm going to say something monstrous. I enjoy the way Iron Hands play. I like the way their Dreadnoughts play. But if that's going to be heinous in the event and completely smash everyone, don't bring that. To an extent, it's all. This is sort of back to the, like, I also call it the EDH problem in Magic, where you want to be in the running to win, but you don't want to be clubbing a bunch of people who've like never played the event, never played 40k before, or like are just like getting into 40k. So it can go a lot of different ways. Generally speaking, now for team events, I'm just like, all right, what's like the faction that I'm interested in playing right now? What are the models playing that faction? And just make sure it's not going to be a complete disaster with my partner, which for me right now means like bringing 1,000 Sunstrikers and hoping that my partner is bringing something that they can hide behind.
Yeah. Right. So when I do doubles tournaments, I mean, yes, my aim is to win games, but my overarching aim is to just have fun because it's a doubles tournament. And to that end, I like bringing the units that have been in my display case for a while that I haven't taken out because for whatever reason they suck. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I have a Mulith Vortex Beast on my shelf that like needs to make an appearance at an event at some point.
So this also kind of goes in with like a mindset thing where like, and this is kind of why we had that Iron Hands experience happen, but like sometimes you're going in like, I want to win, and you're going to build the list that is I'm going to win. Sometimes you're going to be like, I'm going here to spend a day to hang out with my friend and play 40k. And sometimes it's like, I don't need to bring the competitive thing. I want to bring the list that lets me play like 40k, make in-game decisions because I'm playing 40k. And just know, like, if you don't win that event when that's your goal, that's fine, because your goal wasn't ever to actually win. It was just to have fun.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, I'd say the big thing is definitely check with and make sure your partner's on the same page as you. Like your partner's like, if your partner's like, I want to crush this thing, I'm bringing, I don't know what's the competitive, like a White Scars nonsense list, or like Dark Eldar Las Cannon spam with maximum rerolls, and then you're like, I've brought 20 Tyranid warriors. I'm going to march at my opponent. Neither of you are going to have a good time.
Yeah, align your goals.
Yeah, make sure your partner and you are on the same page as like, all right, are we trying to crush people? Or are we trying to have a good time? And if you can't align those goals, you know, it's okay to just be like, all right, maybe we shouldn't play together. Like maybe we should each find a different person to play with because you just want to like smash the event, which is fine. I might not own the models to smash the event. I might not have the mindset where I want to go in and try and smash this more casual event. Just like make sure that if that's where you are, that you are willing to just not play with each other, because that's going to be better in the long run. You're gonna have more fun, even if it means you don't play the event at all. It's gonna be better than you and your partner going in and having a miserable time from start to end. Because I've seen partner events where the partners were not getting along, and it's uncomfortable to play against. I really wouldn't want to be playing in that team. Like that just sounds miserable. Like you get done with like game 2 and your partner and you were yelling at each other. Like, my goodness, like we're talking about hostility across the table. Like what about like when a team's imploding on itself? It's not pretty. I've seen it. It's really not pretty.
Also keep in mind that you're kind of making a deal with your partner. Make sure that like, I've seen an event where 2 people were partners and then the girlfriend showed up round 3 and said, well, I want to go. It's like, and then all of a sudden one of the partner had to leave and the other guy was just kind of there. It's like, well, that's not fair to that one guy who got left there.
Yeah, right. Like he paid to play the event. He's obviously not going to be like eligible for prizes because he didn't play the last round. You know, who's like, yeah, make sure you and your partner are on the same page. If someone's got to leave early, like, make sure.
All right. Okay, so that was the event. It was with Rob, who's in chat. That wasn't exactly what happened, by the way.
That was the first round, wasn't it?
Yeah, that in that tournament, the guy brought his girlfriend. His partner was someone he like posts online to be there, and his girlfriend's like, so it's gonna be at the end of this round, we're gonna be done. It's like, oh no, there's like 2 more rounds after that. I'm gonna be here for 9 hours.
Yeah, that was.
I mean,
that's rough.
That's communicate with your other partner too.
Yeah, don't drag your spouse to an event unless they have their own car and or know that they're going to be there for 9 hours. That one kind of falls under life advice. We've reached beyond 40K. Inform your partners when you plan on wasting 9 hours of their time. But I think that's the big thing, right? Is make sure you're both there to do the same thing. And even if you're not going to be super competitive, even if your goal is not to like smash the event, make sure that your lists are like functional, because even the casual players who are there are bringing reasonable things. It may not be the best thing, but it's still like lists that are designed to function. I've played against more casual players at those events, but it was still like Lehman Russes bringing relic cannons and like real things, because people see stuff on the internet and they're like, oh, that looks like a very powerful thing. I want to do powerful things. And even if the players themselves are not excellent and the lists are not super optimized, there's still gonna be good things in the lists. So if you bring completely unoptimized piles, you're gonna lose a lot. If you have a good time losing a lot, go nuts. But be aware that you will need to have some semblance of functionality in your lists if you plan on winning.
Yep. And if you're gonna bring an absolute like spiky dick smashing list, paint your army. It'll make it's that bit of sugar that makes the medicine go down so much smoother. If you're up against a super spiky list and it's just a horde of gray plastic that just got assembled the week before, your opponent's just, I'm not gonna say they're gonna look at you with disdain, but
there it is.
But they might. But if you can say, hey, they're all painted, I paint, it's this is my narrative White Scar's third brotherhood that's nothing but outriders that can fall back and charge forever until you die, yeah, but they're all painted and they can tell you're really committed to this army, so it's not like you just painted them, you assembled them last week because you wanted to win this tournament.
Listen, I am playing a White Scar successor who actually have great steeds on their planet that has a lot of water. So their armor is blue and they have little horseshoes on their shoulders. It's fine.
So yeah, I do think that's a great point, Chris. You really should bring painted models if you can, even if that means you're bringing a less powerful list. It's a more casual event. We're kind of there to all enjoy the hobby together. I've always found games to be more enjoyable with painted models on the table. For the most part, when I've gone to partner events, I've brought painted lists, unless there's like, with the exception of like if I'm starting a new army and like I've just started to collect. I personally have just started to collect Sisters of Battle, or rather, I've had Sisters of Battle for a long time. And I've just started to actually put them together. And in that case, sure. If you're like, all right, this is new, I'm bringing these new things, and if those new things are not like designed to smash your opponent into the ground, go nuts. But if you're there to spike the event, or you're playing an army that you played for a long time, just try to bring painted models. It changes the tenor of the game. It doesn't make you look like a jerk who's just like bought the newest, sweetest thing. Like, oh yeah, like those painted, there's been real work into them, and it just finally makes the game more interesting, more enjoyable rather.
So Ben, is this how you justify the Iron Hands thing? That
Every model was painted. It was fine. No, it's not.
Each side had their own color theme. One was a Death Watch color theme. One of them was green and gold. It was fine. They're clearly different chapters.
All right. I think anything else you guys think are important for partner events?
I think we've covered it. Read your rules packet. Talk with your partner. Talk with your romantic partner if applicable.
Yikes.
If you're just playing to have fun, have fun. If you're playing to absolutely like be competitive and win, try your best to bring a painted army, because it's a doubles tournament. It's a celebration of playing the game and hanging out with your friends and showing off your painted models.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of painted models and stuff, you guys want? Kevin's just shown us his great pile of, well, not shame because it's together. Want to take a last couple minutes to talk about what we're currently working on for hobbies stuff?
Yeah, so I finally started assembling more Plague Marines after having not touched anything since basically mid-January. And mainly it's because I burned out on painting. I had like a 97-day painting streak back in the fall, and then like that turns out that burns you out real hard if you try doing that. So yeah, didn't touch anything for about 3 months. Didn't really have any motivation to touch it because I wasn't playing in real life. I wasn't even playing on TTS. But now that I've got my vaccine, now that more people are getting vaccine, our once and former co-host Omar is coming down this weekend to play a game with me. So I was like, oh shit, I can actually like touch my models again and have a reason to paint them.
For sure.
So yeah, that's getting me back into it. And then I've been diving into the black hole that is looking at resin models.
Yeah.
And
what Forge World things are you interested in?
It's not Forge World. It's this other guy.
Like third party stuff.
Yeah, third party stuff. It's this guy who made these Saturnine Terminators. If you guys don't know what those are, they are like super old school Terminators from
they're like
Trader.
40% shoulder, right?
Yeah. So actually, let me bring it up on the stream right now. Yeah, they are like nothing but shoulder. I'm
super into the way those guys look.
Yeah, they're super ridiculous, but I also love them a lot.
Right.
So
and
so I really want to order those. But I also am broke right now.
I don't think they ever came up on screen.
Oh, there we go.
And while those get pulled up, oh yeah, it's a lot of shoulder. Kevin, you wanna run us through what your pile of shame is about? I keep calling it a pile of shame. Oh, is a pile of shame unpainted or unbuilt? What's the definition?
Either.
Chat. What do you guys think? Either.
It depends. It depends on how long each has been. So like,
it's fair.
For me, I have a pile of Chaos Space Marine shame downstairs where it's just like I bought all of it. I bought 2 Battle Forces and a bunch of like a Forge Fiend, a second Helldrake. Like I have like over 2,000 points of unbuilt Chaos Space Marines downstairs that I don't know how I want to work the army. I'm currently working on some Rubric Marines because I really like my paint scheme for Rubric Marines. I think I showed one off a while ago. I now own 40 Rubric Marines, and I think I might just build 1,000 some army. I was gonna surprise Ben with that fact.
Monster. So it's funny because Thousand Suns was my painting project when the pandemic started, and then it became clear that the pandemic was going to go very long to the point where 1,000 Suns Codex might just be out by the time it was over. So I kind of stopped because I wasn't sure what was going to be good. I have like now I think 40 or 30 painted Rubric Marines and like a full unit of Terminators up together, and like now it's just like I before I do anything more, I'm just going to wait to see how I want to run it.
Yeah,
but I'm personally laughing right now because chat is Total Noob 116, who is my fiance, is saying the pile of shames status depends on how much you can outsource for your painting. Anyone who's played against me knows that all of my best painted models are actually painted by her. She's a commission artist, so whenever I can pull her away from her commissions, I get her to paint my models, and they come out looking sweet. What I'm personally working on without her right now is I'm working on Beasts of Nurgle, which I kept saying a lot earlier in the podcast. But I actually now have a event coming up with my team because I'm on a 40k team, the Great Crusade, and we have a team invitational event coming up where all the vaccine members of the team are going to be playing together later on in May, and I'm looking forward to bringing a chaos list. So I'm working on some Beasts of Nurgle. Mine are all kit bashed. Let me see if I can grab one. So they're all kit bashed to be like insectoid, because I really like the Nurgle insect look, and I think the actual Beast of Nurgle model is like pretty silly looking. So that's what I'm currently working on, is Beast of Nurgle, and getting my Nurglings to look unique. So like I'm working on like maybe basing or highlighting my Nurglings in some way so that they're like distinct units.
Oh shit, that reminds me. If Omar's coming down this weekend, I need to assemble Mortarion.
Mortarion, sweet. And then that's the other thing is of course I'm gonna be getting a Be'lakor, and I might just try to run him, because if we get 40k rules for him anytime soon, it's not until like mid-May that the rules cut off for our event is, so I might just like try to get Be'lakor, because Be'lakor's sweet. That new model is sick.
The new model is sick.
Rules are also dumb. We don't even have all the rules, and the rules are dumb.
Speaking of sweet new models, can we talk about this new orc model that they showcased on Warhammer Community, the Beast Snaggers, and how fucking awesome these guys look?
Yeah, the orcs on squigs with spears that explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe those spears have dynamite at the end, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, they're
rocket powered spears, right?
Yeah, they're basically like Techno Vikings but orky.
You have no rules for them, so who knows what they're going to do rules wise, but they look sweet. Traditionally, mounted anything has been good in 9th edition, so I mean, yeah, orcs get sweet things. Orcs need sweet things. Orcs are in a little bit of a rough spot right now, as our event showed.
Yeah. So I do have the Chaos Space Marine pile of shame. Sorry, switching back to the original topic.
Yeah, of course.
I do have the Chaos Space Marine pile of shame. All that gray over there is a bunch of things I kind of wanted for like to bring in a little bit less of a serious capacity. Obviously, those Hammerfall bunkers don't think are going to be seeing much tournament play, but they might be seeing some team play, Ben.
Find someone else.
Oh, okay.
Man,
also,
I remember when they previewed that Hammerfall bunker, like people were getting hype as shit for it, because they're like, oh man, it's gonna shoot everything. You just drop it right in the middle of the board because it's comes in from orbit. No, it's just the fortification.
So in reality, actually, I think I've indoctrinated 5 people into the game during the pandemic. So first couple team events, I might be playing with some number of them, and I'm sure I could pawn one of them off on you.
Excellent.
And you can lose valiantly with your Hammerfall bunker.
Oh yeah, it'll be great. The rest of that stuff there is a bunch of Indominus stuff. I kind of want to gloat for a second. I'm going to gloat for a second. So since last podcast, I've built 2 Gladiators, 2 Hammerfall bunkers, 6 Eradicators, 3 Blade Guard Veterans, 1 Blade Guard Ancient, 3 Primaris Tech Marines, a Chaplain, a Judicare, Watchmaster Artemis, and 10 veterans, with 8 of them with chainswords, 1 with a lightning claw and bolt gun, and 1 of them with a power fist and chainsword. The last one's going to be the black shield. So I've done my hobbying this week.
I glued 3 pieces of Nurgle to bases. That's what I've done since last podcast.
I've glued 3 Chaos Space Marines to bases. Also, I've worked as noted right there.
Sure.
So get Rex Scrub.
That is an impressive amount of hobbying, Kevin. Also,
yes.
I wish I could. I wish I could do that amount of hobbying. I've been working no shit like 60 hours a week the last couple of weeks, and like after this pod is over, I have to go back to work.
Oh no, that's the worst. I'm on vacation right now. I have no excuse for not getting a bunch done. But I've actually managed to break out my hobbying stuff, and I'm organizing my list, which is gonna be sweet.
Listen, I know here I'm supposed to say like, oh, I feel so bad for you working, but that was me getting validated, and now I feel bad about being validated, and how dare you do that to me, Chris?
I'm sorry.
Shame on you, Chris. Working hard. Gosh, what are you gonna do with these people? All right. So yeah, I think that's all my thoughts on team events, on the new Cognitive stuff and the new arc weapons. Do you guys have anything to add to any of those stuff?
Nope.
While I've been making these models, I've been dreaming up rules for NIDS in 9th edition.
Hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams. I hope they work like Ozark Bone Reapers is the short end of it. I don't want them to have command points. I want them to have like synapse points.
That could be sweet. I think by the nature of the game, they're going to probably still have to have command points, but I could certainly see synapse becoming its own system on top of that.
Yeah. I have some ideas on how they could like work command points differently, but I agree there's some mechanics that like you would need command points, like it's kind of like mana in Dota. Like you kind of need every character to have mana because like there's characters who interact with mana. So if you don't have mana, then what do those characters do? I thought some ways around that.
Okay. All right, Chris, want to sign us off?
Yep. So thank you everybody for tuning into this week's episode. We're streaming live on Twitch every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can catch the VODs on our YouTube channel. I'm thinking of some content ideas to put up on YouTube that aren't podcasts, but you know, they'll come out when they come out if I ever stop working 70 hours a week. But until then, yeah, don't roll any ones.
Don't roll ones.
Scene twist here.